Hello once again, and thank you for tuning in to thegreendoorway.com, the home grower's resource for Organivus cannabis. I'm your host Greenlove here at the Greenlove Laboratories, and today we will be transplanting our Blue Dream clones from their original solo cup containers to these larger containers filled with Mel's Mix that you will be making at home. This is equal parts, third parts, perlite, compost, and sphagnum peat moss. There'll be enough nutrients to carry these plants over for the next couple of months. They will be residing inside of my vegetative closet under artificial light, metal halide more specifically, until the hoop house gets warm enough, the soil gets warm enough, we have consistently longer days, and then it's on for the rest of the growing season from there. But there are plenty of nutrients for the plants just to add water to. Prior to transplanting, I do like to soak my clones in a diluted mixture of reverse osmosis water and B1 vitamins. It helps with the transplant shock. Prior to soaking them in water, you'll need to calibrate your pH meter that you will get with your grow kits. With a pH meter, there'll be calibration solutions. Instructions are pretty simple for these Hannah versions. There are a couple of versions to choose from in your kit selection. But you start off by turning on your meter until the LED indicates that it's on regular test mode. Then you'll hold the mode button down. You'll see it off, and then it'll say recalibrate. Then you'll place this after it gives you an indication into one of two solutions. You'll have a pH 7.01 and a pH 4.01. Buffer solution 7, and we will set that down inside of the solution until it's done calibrating. Now in the meantime, until it gives me an indication it's time to transfer solutions, the Mel's Mix, as I was saying, there is, I can't remember the man's name, but he has come up with square foot gardening, and I have essentially taken some of his growing techniques and brought them into my greenhouse for the cannabis grow. I essentially, even though this is just sphagnum peat moss, perlite, and my compost inside of my actual raised beds, I've amended those boxes heavily with alfalfa meal, kelp meal, ground up oyster shells for calcium, azomite, minerals from A to Z. I particularly, like I said, enjoy eating my cannabis, so there's a mineral transfer that the plant will uptake and put into the bud. So you won't be, it'll taste different because of the minerality if you smoke it, but when you eat it, it'll be providing additional nutrients. Seems to be taking quite a long time in the 7.1 solution. But as I was saying, there's the added benefit of the minerals that are being uptaken by the plant if you eat it. You'll need to treat it differently if you're planning on smoking it exclusively. You'll end up needing to do what they call flushing, and that's just using water through the very last portions of the flower cycle before harvest to wash out minerals and all the nutrients that the plant won't be using right at the very end of its life cycle. For some reason, it hasn't given me any indication that it's done calibrating. Come on, you thing. No. So, let's see, while we're waiting for that to calibrate further, what I'll end up doing, I've already filled up this container with quite a bit of the Mel's Mix. You'll take your Dixie cup, your solo cup, and fill your soil so that you're basically your finished cup after you remove it from this container will end up backfilling and being level with close to level with the top of the container. I'm actually going to recess it a little bit because I don't like these lower branches. I think I'm going to actually snip these off later, probably in a week or so after the plant is fully adjusted to its new surroundings, and I know that it's already survived the transplant. After which we'll chop off these lower leaves and branches pinch the top so that it encourages further branching at the top of the canopy, and then we'll backfill and bring it to a higher level inside of the container. More roots will end up growing from those sites that have been injured after you take off these lower branches. It actually encourages root growth along the stem after you've buried it in soil. And that's what we're shooting for. The larger the root structure, the more vigorous the plant will be able to take up nutrient and pump it up through its hydraulic system. Dang, why is it not calibrating? Anyway, the pH 7.1 is completely neutral. It's neither acidic nor alkaline. If you should have a situation where you need to adjust your pH, the marijuana plant specifically likes to have a pH range of 5.6 to 5.8. If you need to adjust those, I suggest using, rather than going down to your indoor garden store and picking up a commercial pH up or pH down, there are natural alternatives to add acidity, thereby lowering the pH. I prefer using apple cider vinegar. To increase alkalinity or raise the pH number, I will use baking soda. And you do it in very small, minute increments. So that if you need to raise your pH, you add just a little bit of baking soda, stir it around, allow it to dissolve, and then check it. Don't do a bunch all at once, because you'll do a lot of raging fluctuation. One of the benefits that I do like using the apple cider vinegar is that there are other trace elements in here that won't be found in your commercially available pH down. So, for some reason, our meter doesn't seem to be... Okay, well, we're going to start that over. I'm going to rinse off this calibration solution from the meter. I'm going to try this once more. Hold it down until you see the calibration number. Use the 7.01 solution. I'll drop that down in there. Oh, so while we're in here chatting, I have extended an invitation to a number of my Facebook friends to grow the largest pumpkin. I have gotten a number of these dill giant Atlantic pumpkins that I've sprouted, and I'm going to be giving them out to a small select group of my volunteer friends that would care to grow a giant pumpkin. And whoever grows the most giant pumpkin will receive a pool of beer. Not as in like a kiddie pool, but each of us will buy a growler from our nearest or most favorite beer dispensing place, and put it into a pot, and whoever has the largest I'm going to give bonus points for pretty pumpkin as well. You know, something that's got good coloration, is round as opposed to pancake-ish. You know, and really you can really tell. It's still asking to use the 7.0 solution, and it doesn't seem to be deviating from there. Well, so in any case, I'd actually calibrated this earlier and it seemed to have been working just fine. Maybe I need to check my battery. But well, as I said before, the plant really prefers a pH range of around 5.6 to 5.8. It likes slightly acidic soil. You'll find that your tomato plants will also react pretty positively to that. So anyway, might as well just keep right on going until this meter decides it needs to have a change to the pH 4 solution. So what I'll do is gently squeeze the outside of the solo cup. Oh, check this out. So prior to setting this in water, I allowed these guys to get super dry. I know before watering, I weighed this out and it was 126 grams. So after having watered it, it is now 287 grams. Well, you can go ahead and do the math real quick, but it soaked up quite a bit of water, and that's just in a Dixie-sized cup. And, you know, like I said, what I ended up doing is not really watering it, but setting it into a pot so that the soil was almost submerged inside of this water. So it allowed the plant to uptake as much of the B1 and water that it really wanted or could use. The soil was nice and saturated. So, as I was saying, gently squeeze the outside of your cup, holding it over your container because soil will end up falling out. Give a little push down at the bottom. Okay? And then we'll just rest this gently in this soil. Oh, in addition to using the sphagnum and perlite, I've also added a little bit of mycorrhizal fungi. Now, mycorrhizae is a beneficial fungus that will grow around the roots and actually encourage root growth, and it allows your plants to take up nutrient a whole lot better. It's a symbiotic relationship. After the fungus is colonized around the roots, it does an exchange where it uptakes nitrogen and other things from the surrounding soil, feeds it to the plant, and the plant gives it sugars in exchange. So, win-win. Your native soil will have a certain measure of that, but during transplant, it's the best time to add that to your soil. You don't necessarily need to use a whole bunch, because once your plant has been inoculated with it, it will start to spread and colonize. So, you notice how I'm keeping all the soil nice and loose and fluffy. One of the reasons why I like this Mel's mix is because even after you've moistened it, you can grip it like this and it'll still fall apart. It's just nice and loose. It'll hold water, it'll hold nutrients, and it'll be nice and airy for your plants to grow, the root system to grow evenly through the medium. Like I said, after a week, we will check this and see how well it has reacted to the transplant. But I will take some sterilized scissors and chop off all these lower branches and then backfill it so that the soil is actually much higher up the stem. I'll also demonstrate a technique they call pinching or fimming. We'll take this very, very top shoot, the very most upper point of growth, and we'll just chop that off, and from there the plant is encouraged to split. And you'll continue to do that throughout the entire vegetative growth period, and your plant will create more sites for the flowers to bloom. It'll get bushier, it will get as tall. And even though I have a 10-foot high hoop house, I had two plants last year that actually touched the very top of that greenhouse. So I highly encourage you pinching and scrogging and bushing out your plants as much as possible. So anyway, I've already pH'd some water. I'm going to give this a little drink, even though I gave it a little bit of B1 inside of its container. The soil it's surrounding is only damp. I just moistened it enough to keep the dust down as I was mixing it. Now, at some point, water will start to pool inside of my little collection tray at the bottom. That's also a good thing to check with your meter, just to see how much the pH has changed in the soil as it's been flushed through the medium. See, what else is happening here? Talked about the B1. Oh, here's a little grow tip. So in your garden, you're always constantly amending, and I don't know what your practice is at home, but we try to recycle all of our produce into our compost pile or our worm bins. And one of the things that you're encouraged to recycle or compost are eggshells. But you always seem to see eggshells pretty much intact at the end of the grow season because they don't break down very well. Well, what I like to do is take my eggshells, dry them, clean them first, rinse them out, dry them, and I have an old coffee grinder, and I will hit it and powderize it, and it's much more easily spread through the compost pile. And I encourage you doing this at home. Don't tell Mrs. Greenlove that I was doing this inside the house, because it does get kind of dusty. So after you powderize that, finally sprinkle it around your vegetable gardens or into your compost pile or into your worm box. It's still asking that I stay inside of the 7.1 solution. So we're going to have to continue this experiment. I had done this earlier. Maybe it just doesn't feel like it needs to be calibrated, considering I just calibrated it just before I started taping. So I think I covered what I wanted. Introduced the giant pumpkin seeds for my grow contest. Transplanted the first of this group of clones into the Mel's mix that I described as being, like I said, 3rd parts perlite, sphagnum peat moss, and compost. Your own organic compost is preferable. You can get bagged from a local hardware store, or maybe your municipality composts your yard waste and etc. But I personally prefer the stuff that comes out of my own compost pile because I know what's in it. I had actually gone down to a couple of our local what they call organic compost places and picked up a few yards, and I found things like ground up Copenhagen tin in one, a piece of a survival knife in another. You always find bits of plastic and stuff. You won't find that inside of your own compost pile because you're the one that's actually physically in there turning it and adding to it. So I described the important benefits of using the B1 during transplant. Unfortunately, had a big fail using the meter. I assure you, the meter you get in with your package, if it does not work like this unit, send it right back. We'll send you another unit, and we will pay for the shipping both ways. So I think that would be all. This is, once again, Green Love here at the Green Love Laboratories, signing off for the greendoorway.com, your Organibus cannabis resource for the home grower. Stay tuned. Maybe we can address this issue and talk about it next week. But until then, stay green, keep those dirty fingernails churning in the dirt, and we'll see you next week. All right? Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.